Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for coming back, and in part 2 we are going to be working this. So get all your stuff together and let's get started on part 2. Okay, so we just finished round 12 in part 1, so part 2 we're starting with round 13. So we've slip stitched to our first single crochet. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to go right back in there with a single crochet. Skip the next single crochet, and into the next one we're going to work our 5 double crochet shells. So 5 doubles in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, I split that, and 5. Skip the next single, which is kind of pulled up right there. Skip that, and then we're going to single crochet into the next. And that's what we're repeating all the way around. Skip the next, shell into the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip the next single, single crochet into the next. So go ahead and repeat that. We just worked our single. So we're going to skip the next, shell, skip, single, skip, and shell. So repeat that around and I'll meet you guys at the beginning. Alrighty, I made it around. I have 1 single crochet left and we're going to skip him and we're going to slip stitch to that first single that we worked of round 13. So get in there and slip stitch. Now, for simplicity, we want to work smarter, not harder. I am marking, make sure you guys can see this. That single crochet that we slip stitched into, pull that over so our slip stitch lays right on top of it. I'm going to mark that because we're going to work through we're going to work straight into that single over the top of that slip stitch in a little bit. So I'm going to mark that. And that is the end of round 13. Now, uh-oh, I went through my yarn. Get you out of the way and go right in there. Okay. Okay, I'm good now. Alright, round 14, we've got to get to this 3rd double crochet of our shell. So we're just going to slip stitch right to it. So we're going to slip stitch into the first double, slip stitch into the second double, and slip stitch into the 3rd double. Now we're at the top of our shell. So we're going to chain 1 and we're going to single crochet right back into that double. Okay, so now we're going to skip the next 2 double and right into that single we're going to work a shell increase, and our shell increase is going to be 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet right back into that single down here. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, let's scooch it over, 1, give me some slack, 2, and 3. So now we're going to single crochet into the 3rd double of our shell. Now in my pattern I have that you just single crochet into it, but we're skipping 2 doubles, but the the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to tell you guys, I want to show you guys something I do. It's just for me because it's easier for me. Instead of trying to count that first double that's all wonky now from working all those stitches in the single crochet, what I always do is I think, okay, I need the third double. Well, out of 5, that leaves 1, 2. There's our third, 1, 2. So when I say skip 2, instead of struggling to try to find that first one, look where your single is, right here. Count back 2, and there's always your third. So you're not having to struggle to find that first, you know, double crochet that's all wonky now. So I always look single, 1, 2. There's the double that I need to single crochet into. I hope that makes sense. It just makes it a little bit easier. So there's our single, 1, 2. We're going to single crochet into the top of that third double. To check my notes real quick. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go right back in to our single down here, and we're going to work our shell increase. So 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles. So there's 3, chain 1, scooch, and 1, 2, and 3. So here's my next single, count back 2. The next one is my third, so I'm going to single into it. And right back into that single with another shell increase. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 1. Oh, I split my yarn. Messed that all up. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now here is our last single before we slip stitch to our first, and I have it marked. So I'm going to count, there's my single, 1, 2, there's the third, single crochet into that, and now what I like to do is I like to pull up on that a little bit. See how it makes that hole get a little bit bigger? Take my stitch marker off, and then I see it, and we're going to shell increase into that all around that single crochet and slip stitch. 2, 3, chain 1, 1, 2, and 3. So now we're going to slip stitch to end round 13, right? No, that's round 14. I'm sorry, I got lost. Yeah, this is round 14. I'm sorry. To end round 14, we're going to slip stitch to our first single. Can you guys see it? So these are the slip stitches that we made in the last round to get to the third double. We chained 1 and single crocheted into that third double, and that's what we're going to slip stitch into. Now again, on round 15, that's the last single crochet we're going to work into. So to make it a little easier, hold everything to the side, and I'm going to go straight into that single over the slip stitch, and I'm going to mark it. Okay, so that's the end of round 14. So round 15, we don't have a 5 double crochet shell, do we? We only have 3, chain 1, 3. So now we only have to slip stitch 2 times because we got to get to that second double of our set of 3 right there. And this first one's a little stretched out, so it's easier to see. So we're going to slip stitch 2 times. 1 and 2. And we're in that second double. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet right back into there. So there's our first single crochet of the round. And now what we're going to do, right straight into that chain 1 space, we're going to work 5 doubles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now again, like we did in the other round, instead of, trying to get in there and see all those stitches, here's your next single. Well, we've got a single crochet into that second double crochet of the set of 3. So I just go, here's a single, first double, there's my second double, single crochet into that. So now we're going to go right into that single crochet with another shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to repeat what we started with. We need to single into that second double crochet. It's right in the middle there. We're going to shell in the chain 1 space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single crochet into our second double of the set of 3. So here's our single, 1, there's the second. And we're going to shell into our single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single crochet into the second double, shell into the chain 1 space. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single crochet into our second double. If you're having a hard time, find your next single, count over 1, 2, there's a second, single crochet into it. Since we're almost done with the round, I'm going to go ahead and stay on here with you guys. Okay, we worked the single, so now into this single we work our shell. 1, 2, 3, oh, I split it. 3, 4, and 5. Single into our second double, shell into the chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here's our last single. So we got to find that second double. So just hold your finger over that, and there's 2 doubles, 1 and 2. So right there. So like, here's a good example why I'm telling you guys, if you look at your next single and just count back the number, to get to your stitch. Because look at here, can you see that third double crochet, the top of that third double crochet? No, you can't until I pull all this over and then it pops out. So and you can do it that way. It doesn't matter. It's up to you guys. You guys do what you want to do. But to me, it's when you get working and you get going faster, it's easier. There's my single. Go back 2. There's the double I need to single into. I hope that helps you guys or gives you a little, little hint. Okay, so here's my last single. So I'm going to pull that up a little bit just to make that stitch have a little larger hole so I don't lose it when I take my stitch marker out. So right into that little hole, we're going to work our shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch to our first single right here. I'm going to hold everything to the side, find my stitch marker, go ahead and go straight through that single and over the slip stitch. And that is the end of round 15. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shells. And that's what we're gonna keep doing. We're gonna keep slowly increasing until we get 16 shells, because that's a good number to cover up our roll of toilet paper. Okay, so that was 15, so here's 16. So we slip stitched in the first single to close, to end that round. So now we have our 5 double crochet shell again, right? So we got to get to that third double. So we're going to slip stitch into the first double, second double, and here's our third double. So we slip stitch 3 times to get to that third double. We're going to chain 1 and single crochet right back in there. And there's our first single crochet of round 16. Now we're going to shell right into that single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single into our third double. So I'm looking here, go back to, there's my third. And that's what we're going to repeat all the way around. We're just going to single crochet into each, well, I'll start from where I finished. We're going to shell into the single, single crochet into the third double, shell, single, shell, single, and we're still going to have 8 shells. We're not increasing on this round. So go ahead and shell into your single, single into your third double, shell into your single, single into the third double. Repeat that, and I'm going to meet you guys right before we work our last shell into our last single we have marked. I'll be right back. Okay, I've single crocheted into the top of my third, and now I'm to my stitch marker. So right into that little hole we're going to work our shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch to our first single. Go ahead and mark that. Oops. Mark that. And that's the end of round 16. So 17, we got to get back up to that third double. So we're going to slip stitch 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, and we're going to single crochet right back into there. Now into our single crochet, we're going to work a shell increase. So we're going to be increasing a little bit this round. So that our shell increase is 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles. So there's 3, chain 1, 1, 2, 3. Single crochet into our third. There's our single, 1, 2, there's our third. And shell into our single. Not a shell increase, just a simple shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single crochet into our third. And now we're going to work our shell increase. So that's going to be our repeat. So we increase, shell increase, normal shell, shell increase, normal shell, shell increase, normal shell. Work that all the way around. Make sure you know, don't forget your single crochets. So we have a shell, so now we're going to shell increase. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 1, 2, 3. Single in our third, and then work our normal shell. So go ahead and repeat that around, working your increase, shell increase, normal shell, shell increase, normal shell. Work that around, and I'll meet you guys right before we work into that single. Alright, so I've single crocheted into the third double of that my last shell right here. Now we're to our single. So my last one was an increase, so this last one is just going to be a normal shell. So 5 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single into, or I mean, slip stitch to our first single. Lay that to the side. Mark it with our stitch marker for the next round. And that's the end of round 17. So we should have 4 shells and 4 shell increases. So here's an increase, normal, increase, normal, increase, normal, increase, and we end with the normal. Okay, so for round 18, we're starting with working into our shell increase. So we're going to start in the second double crochet of our set of 3. So we slip stitch to the first and slip stitch into our second. Chain 1, single crochet back into that stitch, and now we work a shell into the chain 1 space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we need a single crochet into the second double of our shell increase right here. So here's our single, 1, 2, there it is. Single into that. Shell into our single. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we're to our normal shell. So what do? We got a single crochet into that third double. So here's our single, 1, 2, there's our third. And now we're to our single, so we shell into that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Dang it. And 5. So now we're to their shell increase. So we single crochet into the second of the set of 3 and shell into the chain 1. And that's what we're going to repeat around. So you have to kind of pay attention. Are you working into a shell increase or a normal shell? Shell increase, we single into the second, shell in the chain 1, single into the second, shell into our single, single crochet into the third of our little normal shell, shell into our single, and we're back to our another increase shell. So we single in a third, shell in the chain 1, single, or not third, I'm sorry, second, So single into the second, shell and chain one, single into the second, shell into the single. So go ahead and repeat that all the way around, and I will meet you at our stitch marker. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of round 18. Here's my stitch marker. So pull that up a little bit, pop that off, and I'm going to work my last shell into there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch to our first single, and that is the end of round 18. And now we should have 12 shells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. So for round 19, we're not going to increase any. All we're going to do is single crochet into the third double crochet of our shell and shell into our single crochets. So I'm going to slide this over, mark that, oops, make sure I get in that single. Okay, so we got to get to our third, so what do? We got to slip stitch into the first, slip stitch into the second, slip stitch into the third, chain one, and single crochet. So for round 19, this is an easy one. Shell in our single, single into our third, shell into our single, single into our third, shell, single, shell, single. Work that all around, and I'm going to meet you guys back here at the stitch marker, and we're still going to have 12 shells. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of round 19. I single crocheted. Oh, geez, sorry. I single crocheted into the last shell. So now, right where I got that stitch marker, I need to work my last shell. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch to our first single. Go ahead and lay that to the side. Run that right through there, right through that single. And that is the end of round 19. So now we're going to start round 20. And round 20 we got to get to 16 shells, right? Because we only got 12 right now. So we're going to work this increase round one more time. But instead of one normal shell, one increase, one normal shell, we're going to work one normal shell, then increase. So 2 normal shells, then increase. Okay, so we got to get to our third double again. So we're going to slip stitch 3 times. 1, 2, 3. We're in our third. Chain 1, single, and then come right back down in here to that single crochet, and we're going to start with our shell increase. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 1, oops, I split that again. So we have 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 1, 2, and 3. Single into our third. So So we increase, so these next 2 single crochets are just going to get the normal shells. 5 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single into our third. So there's increase, normal. Need one more normal. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single in our third. 1, 2. And now our shell increase, right? Here's our first increase, normal, normal, increase. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, about forgot. Chain 1, 1, 2, and 3. And that's what I want you guys to repeat around. Single in your third, increase, normal, normal, increase, normal, normal, increase, normal, normal, increase, normal, normal. So we're going to repeat that around, and I will be right back with you guys at this slip stitch. Okay, I've made it around, single crocheted into that, my last shell, and now we work our shell into our stitch marker. Just a normal shell, not our increase. Pull it open, there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, not that, and 5. Okay, slip stitch to our first, lay it to the side, get our stitch marker, run that right through that single. Okay, so now we should have 8 shells and 8 shell increases. I'm sorry, 8 shells, 4 shell increases. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so for round 21, we have a shell increase, right? So which stitch do we work, which double do we work into? The second, right. So we slip stitch 1 and 2, chain 1, single into our second, and shell, normal shell, into our chain 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Single in our second, and shell into our single. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that basically with this round, all you have to do is you have to pay attention to what you're working into. We know our normal shells, we single in the third, shell in the single, our normal shell, single in the third, shell in our single, and then we're to our shell increase. So what do? Single in the third, second, single into the second, shell in chain 1, single in the second, shell in our single, we're to our normal shells, so we single in the third, shell in our single, one more, normal shell, so we single into the third, shell in our single, and here's our next increase. So we single into the second, shell in the chain one, single into our second. So I want you guys to go ahead and repeat that round, and she's starting to look like a little gown. I love the stitch definition with this yarn. It's really pretty. But anyhow, I got off track. Go ahead and repeat that around, and I'll meet you guys when we get to our stitch marker. Okay, so I've repeated all the way around. I'm to our stitch marker where we're going to put our last shell right into that top hole with 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 more, 5. Slip stitch to our first single and mark with our stitch marker wherever that's at. Pull that to the side. Go right through that single over the slip stitch. Okay, so now we should have 16 shells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, we are done increasing. So now for row 22, all we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch to our third double. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, single back into there, and shell into our single, single into the top, into the third, shell, single, all the way around. And we're going to repeat that until roughly about 10 or 11. So as you go, try your dress on your Barbie. Put your Barbie in your toilet paper roll and just kind of, you know, keep working that until the dress is almost touching the table you got it setting on, or your desk, or what have you. Now I am going to actually stop 1 row before my dress touches my desk, because I'm going to work the last round in that off-white color like we did her hat in part 1. So just keep doing what we're doing. Slip stitch at the beginning 3 times to the third double, chain 1, single back into that third double, shell in our single, single in the third double, shell in our single, single in the third, all the way around. Get to your slip stitch, or your stitch marker, shell into that, slip stitch 3 times to our third, and start it over again. So I'm going to leave you guys here for a little bit, and I'm going to come back after I get my rounds done, right before I start my last round in my different color, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back, and I've repeated round 22 about 8 times, I believe. And all I'm going to do I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to the third double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm just going to go ahead and fasten off. I'm not going to do a fancy color change. And then just attach my off-white in the same stitch. Focus on me. Pull through. I'm going to go right back in there with a single. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing we've been doing. Oops, wrong one. Five shells in the single, 5 shells, 5 double crochets in the single. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I like the way that off-white sets with that green, that dark. The color of the yarn is actually called olive, but I think more of like a fern green. But anyway, go ahead and repeat that around and come back and I'll finish this round with you. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm coming around to work the shell into my single crochet that I got marked. Ah. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and jump over, slip stitch, chain 1, and fasten off. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and I am going to end part 2 here, and in part 3 we're going to do a little more decorating. So I thank you guys for watching. Stick with me, we're almost done. Hit that subscribe button, please, and hit that thumbs up button. I appreciate it very, very much. Leave me a comment, tell me what you guys think. And hey, in that description box I've got all kinds of links. I got links to my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Etsy, TikTok, all that fun stuff. So thank you guys for watching. I truly do appreciate it. And come back for part 3. Bye guys.